So my name is Allison Satoff. It looks like a bunch of jumbled up letters that don't spell anything, but it sounds like Satoff. Satoff. And I've been teaching middle school art for 22 years. And I taught at Justine's old school. She didn't actually have me for a teacher, but I remember you. So I've been teaching for 22 years, and last year, like I said, I got to teach the methods of teaching secondary art. I loved it. I love being with the college kids. I love having college kids in my classroom. It's my favorite part of my whole job. You know, middle school kids are a little ornery. They don't love art and following directions as much as you guys do, but we do okay. So today I just want to talk a little bit about how important it is to be creative with your students. You guys are elementary education majors, so you are naturally organized, creative, excited about teaching and being around kids of whatever grade you choose. So there are going to be kids in your class who are terrible at math, but they may be really good at art. That time of the day when you say, okay, get out a pencil and paper and draw a swimming pool, and then they're into it. They can't wait for you to judge and pick out the best one, and hopefully it's theirs, they're thinking. But there are going to be kids who struggle with reading, but when it's time for art, they love it, and that's their release. That's their time to shine. There will be kids that are good at everything, so you'll have that group too. So it is important to incorporate art. You may end up at a school that doesn't have an art teacher, so it'll be very important for you to do this. Hopefully you get a school that does have an art program and it's not a lot of pressure on you to make sure that their creativity is nurtured. But we definitely want them to be creative. Even if they don't grow up to become an artist, we just want them to be creative in whatever they do and to have good craftsmanship. So we're just going to learn lots of little things that are going to make you teaching art easier and more fun. I just want to empower you so that when you do have a class of crafty, artistic kids, that you feel like you can meet the challenge. Pinterest is amazing. A lot of people say, oh, I saw that on Pinterest. Well, that's okay. Pinterest is there to share and to pass out good ideas. So if you see things on Pinterest that you want to share with your kids, do it and don't feel judged by using Pinterest. That's what it's for. Pinterest is starting to get a bad reputation, but it's a wonderful thing. Don't be afraid to get ideas off of Pinterest and other websites. Okay. In this class, you need to have a binder. I put 2-inch binder, but probably a 1.5 would be fine as well. So you just need a 3-ring binder, and you need the plastic sleeves that hook in. Because every single project that we do in class, you will have to write a lesson plan for, and that will have to go in your binder. At the end, you're going to turn in your binder with all the lessons, starting with our Picasso lesson. So I'm also going to make sure all of the papers that I pass out are the right size for the binder. When you actually teach, you might want to teach with bigger pieces of paper, but I want to do things a little bit smaller so that they can actually fit in your 8.5 by 11 sleeves to make your binders nice and pretty and organized. I don't want you to have to take an art project and fold it in half. Okay. All right. Oh, if you open up your syllabus, you'll see that on the second page, I already said this, but it's got my cell phone number. Feel free to text me. It's okay to text me. And there's a paper going around where I want you to please correct your name if I spelled it wrong, and give me your cell phone number as well. And please put my cell phone number in your cell phone. And then I basically modeled this syllabus after Mrs. Coghill. She taught it last year. So she's not teaching it anymore. I get to teach it. So some of the things that she taught, like clay projects, I'm not sure if an elementary teacher would actually do a clay project and be able to fire it and glaze it and fire it again. We're not going to do clay. So some things have definitely changed. Some things are changed to fit more my teaching style, and things that I feel are a little bit more applicable to just a normal elementary classroom. I'm not sure what page this is, but it's got the grading scale here. And then it says that your art binder, projects, and lessons are worth 100 points. There will also be quizzes, and they're worth 10 points each. Don't stress about the quizzes. They're going to be real easy. I'll make sure you know everything you need to know for the quizzes. Okay, talks a little bit about late work, but pretty much it's just turning in a binder at the end. I am going to have you turn in your Picasso lesson plan to me next week, just so that I can see that everybody's on the same page. After that, we'll probably just keep doing our lesson plans. I'm not sure how often I'll collect them. As long as I can see that everybody's on the same page and doing them like you're supposed to, then I may just wait and grade them all at one time. I just want to make sure everybody stays caught up, because we're going to do several. Like today we're going to do one project, next week we're going to do two. So you have 2 lesson plans to write next week. And quizzes will be periodic, but very simple. It'll be what we talked about the week before. All right. And on the very back page, you can see a list: week 1, Tuesday, Thursday; week 2, Tuesday, Thursday. And I'll just talk briefly about, very briefly, about what we plan on covering that week. I think art history is a lot of fun. There are certain artists that I feel all kids need to know and recognize. So it'll be good for you to be able to talk about those in your class. Okay, also I talked with Anita Manuel, and I didn't know if your lesson plans could be a little bit more simple, maybe a list of supplies, a description of your lesson, but she said we should follow this. So she sent me a copy and sent it to us so that I gave it to you. So I'm going to be looking for these things as I read your lesson plan. So make sure you put your rationale, your goals, objectives, and standards, anticipatory set, purpose, adaptations for diverse learners. You may have kids in your room who are not able to cut out shapes or whatever. You may just have to help them. So list how you plan on helping diverse learners. It may be very low learners or high ability learners, how to challenge them better. Lesson presentation. You won't actually be presenting lessons in here, but in your lesson you'll be writing out how you would present this. Everyone's lesson could be different. They're not all going to be exactly the same. So for example, when we talk about Picasso, I'm going to talk about different aspects, different phases of his art, and we're going to focus on surrealism. We're just going to focus on that one. We're just going to touch base, real briefly on these. But in your lesson, you may prefer how color and mood affect people's art, and so maybe you want your lesson to really talk about this more. So it's up to you. They can all be a little bit different. They don't all have to be the same. Okay, do you have any questions? Yes?
I just have a few clarifying questions. So each week we technically have to write 2 lesson plans? Okay, and then so technically for each day, so Tuesday and Thursday we should have 1 lesson plan done for both those days.
Some of them, like next week on Thursday, we're going to do 2 lessons.
Okay.
And you'll have to write a lesson plan for both.
Okay, so like for Picasso, which is today's, that'll be due next week Tuesday or Thursday this week?
Thursday.
Okay, and then So next week we have 2 lesson plans that we have to do, or 4?
2.
Okay, so each week there will just be 2 lesson plans that we have to do.
Oh, next week?
Yeah.
Next week would probably be actually 3.
Okay.
Because the fibers lesson is just gonna be 1 project.
Okay, so then every week after that there will be 2. And then do you want there to be like specific standards for it?
That's a good question. There is a list of art standards on the government website, the GOV or the LV, DOE. Thank you. I kept wanting to say LVIS, but the DOE website. You can see the elementary art standards.
So each of our lessons should like go off of one of those, but like be focused on the activity that we did that week?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want it to be like include the activity we did that week? Okay.
Yep, it'll be like we're gonna do a little Picasso project today. So inside the same sleeve that you have this, I want the lesson plan on the back.
Okay.
So in that plastic.
Do we have plans to be scripted?
What do you mean?
So like, for our other lesson plans, we have to write out all the things that we're gonna say, so they're like 3 pages long. Do you want that?
No, I don't want them to be 3 pages long.
Okay.
I do want them to cover everything they're
Yeah.
supposed to, but if you could just kinda, I don't want you to go
like we did.
back to your dorm and spend 8 hours on a lesson
Okay.
plan. I don't want that.
That's great. Maybe I do.
Like bullet points, okay? Okay.
You can simplify, but make sure you cover everything. Not everything is going to be applicable to each lesson. Integration of technology may not apply. And it would be great if it did, but we don't know what your teaching situation is going to be like in the future. So, if you put that in there and say does not apply to this lesson, that's perfectly fine. One thing that's not listed, and in my opinion, when you're teaching an art project, is one of the most important things, is a list of supplies. What supplies did you need in order to teach this lesson? So that's not listed. If you could add that, as if you want to add even more to your lesson plan, I would appreciate that. So if you list the supplies that are needed. Another thing that's extremely important is the rubric. How are you going to grade this? Yes, what's your question?
Well, is the list of the materials the same thing as list of supplies?
It's like not on the front.
Oh,
It's
in
It's
the
in your
inside.
hand.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not trying to stress you out. But I do want a lesson plan for every single project that we do together in class. And for the Picasso lesson, would it be easier for you to have it due Thursday or next week on Tuesday? Do you want a whole week to get it done, or do you want to be forced just to keep up? Honestly, I want you to turn it in Thursday so I can just look at them and make sure we're all on the same page. So the lesson that we're doing today, the lesson plan is due Thursday when you come to class. That way I can look and make sure, then if someone is a little too simple, I can talk to you about that, or if somebody did way too much, I can say, you don't need to do all that. That way we don't not spend enough time. I just want your binder to have everything it's supposed to have, and I don't want to mislead anybody and then have higher or lower expectations at the end when you go to turn it in. Any more questions?
So the projects that we create in class, we're writing the lesson plan, that exact project?
So just how we would like put that in our classroom, like how we would teach our kids to do that project.
Yes.
You don't want like it to be integrated with like a math or like anything like that.
Some of these may, if there is a way that in your lesson plan you can integrate math or writing, if you want to add another aspect to what we're doing, definitely, you could do that.
But it doesn't need to be like that all the
Doesn't
time?
necessarily have to.
Okay.
Do you want specific grade, or can we pick grade levels?
You can pick grade levels. I was thinking to specify early elementary or upper elementary. So that may be best. Because you may already have in mind, you're hoping that you get a job in early elementary or upper elementary. So if you want to gear everything toward both one or the other, or if you want to do a little bit of both. So on your lesson plan, if you would indicate early elementary or upper elementary.
Are quizzes in class
Quizzes are in class.
and they're just like surprise? in case I'm not listening?
I'll let you know. I'll let you know when there's going to be a quiz coming up. And it'll be real simple over basically things that I write on the board. So when you see things on the board, if you would write it down, that'll help you know what's gonna be on the quiz.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay,
This is
so
good.
just to clarify, so we have the Picasso lesson plan, which is based on the activity we do today, and that's through Thursday.
Yes.
And then for Thursday, the activity that we do that day, the lesson plan for that activity will be due. Well, you just, from after the Picasso lesson, you just want it in the binder, right?
Yep, I just wanna see what you're doing. From that point on, I'm gonna trust you to keep up.
Okay.
If I see where we're all on different pages, I might say, turn in your Matisse lesson so I can see how that's going. But once I feel like everybody's on the same page and doing what they're supposed to do, then I'm gonna trust you just to get them all done, keep them with the project, and put them in your binder, and not fall behind.
I think several of us are gonna be gone next Thursday to visit our current schools, so how do you want us to make up?
Well, we'll see how my video goes. I'll leave supplies here. So my supplies will be, I'm not sure who all uses this room, but this shelf here will have all of my supplies on it.
Okay.
So you'll be able to come in and grab your supplies and do it. And if you'll be back on Tuesday, then I can get you caught up Tuesday if you feel like the video didn't help or something. Sounds like we're gonna have a lot of absent people here and there. Do you have any more questions? Okay. You guys ready to talk about Picasso? Get out your notebook. I need you to take notes. If you have any questions or more questions pop up, call me, text me. It's perfectly fine. Don't be afraid or feel bad about asking questions. It's okay. All right. So, what do you think of when you think of Picasso? Have you all heard of Picasso? Okay. All right, so Picasso, since you're all too shy to talk, he is mostly famous for his surrealism period. A lot of people call it the monster period. That's where he drew or painted all the faces that were really distorted, where part of the face was looking one direction and another part of the face a different direction. That's his most famous time period. But he actually started with the blue period. As a child, his dad was an artist and an art teacher. So he was very influenced by his father. And he loved to draw. He hated school. So his parents sent him to art school. And his very first movement in art was the blue period. And I'm going to show you some images. I was hoping I could use the technology in here, but I'll just show you. so you can see that all of these paintings are blue. Why do you think his paintings were blue? What do you think of when you think of? He was sad. He was sad. Oh, this up here. He was sad. He actually had a good friend who committed suicide. When you're actually teaching your class, depending on what age group, you may or may not want to mention that, or maybe just say that a friend passed away and he was sad. And his images were all blue and sad. And you could tell he was depressed by his pictures. The faces, the people they looked sad. They didn't look happy. They were elongated. There was just a very glim look. Very sad people. This was his blue period. But eventually he got a little happier. He came out of the blue period. He started to add color, more color to his pictures. He started adding red and pink and orange. He started painting people that were happier, pictures of circus activities. So his mood changed, and so did his art. He then went into the Cubism period. Where everything's broken up into basic shapes. And he did a lot of these too. Lots of cubes, squares. Everything is very abstract. Now the word abstract means that you can tell what it is, but it's not realistic. Abstract means you can tell what it is, but it's not realistic. None of his paintings are realistic. Then Picasso went into the neoclassical period. And these paintings were influenced by the Renaissance. So he had a Renaissance type subject matter. And he also made his images look like sculptures, which was a very Renaissance movement to see lots of sculptures. So the neoclassical movement for Picasso was a study of the past, the Renaissance period, and making his paintings, making the people in his paintings look like a sculpture. Now, if you're teaching elementary, you can't tell your kids to open your computer and type in Picasso's neoclassical period, because they might see naked people. So you have to pick and choose the pictures they get to see. That's pretty much how it is with all artists. It seems like no matter who it is and how fun and interesting they are and very child appropriate, you never know when there's some boobs mixed in, so you just gotta be careful. Next, Picasso's funnest movement, what he's most famous for, surrealism, also called Picasso's monster period. Is this what that you recognize when you think of Picasso? This is what most kids will recognize. Well, hopefully, if not, after you teach your lesson, this is what they'll think of. So it would be wonderful if when you talk about Picasso, if you actually, this is what his art looked like. You can tell it's a person, but it's not realistic. So it's abstract, because you can tell what it is, but it's not realistic. That's what abstract is. Okay. Did you guys learn anything yet? Are you glad you're learning about Picasso? Okay. So the next thing we need to do is we need to pass out lots of papers. At one point I had this all organized in my classroom, and then I saw a little boy pick it all up and move it. And I was like, and he didn't move it in neat little piles that ended up like this. So I'm just gonna scoot it over here. And so I need you guys to come over here and help me organize this into piles. Each color has its own shapes. Oh my goodness.
Each color. So yes.
Alrighty. The next thing I need everybody to do is take one piece of paper from each pile, and those little circles, the little hole punch circles you need.
So one of everything.
Yep. Yep. So you're taking one of each. Sorry. You also need one of these. You need one black, one green, and one yellow from this table.
I love colored paper. Do you need one of these two or these books?
Those, I think we're just part of these.
Yellow.
They were all I think I got it.
Wow.
Wow, I got two. No, this one buys a cutout, and then you need one of those. Are you excited?
You need this?
and pick out the primary colors. Make a little pile of primary colors. The primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. Good job. Write that down.
Green.
Make sure you know these. Okay, next I want you to make a little pile of secondary colors. Secondary colors are orange, green, and purple. Good job. Write that down. Orange, green, and purple. Now I want you to pick out the neutral colors. Black and white. Your neutral colors are black and white. Okay, next I want you to pick out all the warm colors. The warm colors make you feel warm. They remind you of the sun, the fire, the desert. Okay, so if you chose red, yellow, orange, and pink, those are your warm colors. Go ahead and make a little pile of cool colors. Blue, purple, and green. Write that down. The cool colors are blue, purple, and green. Okay. And if you ever just want to like take a picture of the board or something, that's okay too. All right. Good job. Next, we're going to assemble our Picasso face. And you can open up the box. You can open up whatever boxes. Grab a pair of scissors. Is anybody a lefty? Do we have any lefties? Okay. I bought a few pair of lefty scissors. When you become a teacher, make sure you keep the lefties in mind. I'm not a lefty, but there's always one. Usually one in each group. I'm surprised there isn't one here. Okay. Oh, and you also want to grab glue. I bought some glue sticks. And I also bought some gel glue. You can use whichever one you prefer. Personally, I hate glue sticks. But feel free to use them if you want to.
Do we all need scissors? Or do you have extras?
I've got a couple more pair if you didn't get them.
You need 3?
Yeah. All right, the first thing I want you to do is take your large white piece of paper And I want you to turn it over to the back. On the back, I want you to write your first and last name. When you become a teacher, if you don't tell them to write their first and last name on it, they won't do it. It's very stressful to have a bunch of papers with no names on it. So, first and last name. All right, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to take your, oh, I thought these would be a little closer to the same size. That's okay. I'm just going to borrow your scissors. You're going to take the yellow and the green. You can put them side by side. And you're just going to cut them out like this. So you want it to be as big as possible. You're forming the shape of the face.
Did you start in the corner?
Mhm. Like a pea pod.
Such a violent.
So like a pea pod.
That was funny.
Mine looks like a lemon.
I know.
Next, I want you to take one of your papers and you're going to cut a nose out of it. So on one of your halves of face, you're just going to cut a triangle out of it. Like this. So on one of your faces, one of your face halves, just cut out a triangle. Any size.
This is a triangle.
I know. I'm just scared.
Yeah.
Okay, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take and put your two halves together so that you can see your nose overlapping one side. And then I want you to glue them
Same.
onto your white paper like this.
Can we choose?
Sure, if you want a couple new papers, I have plenty. Okay. You want it to look pretty in your binder.
Wait, what's the
So you're now going to glue it together on the white paper like this. If you want to use the glue, you can, the gel glue, or you can use the glue stick. Keep in mind, glue sticks dry really fast. Now, when you glue something down, everybody look up here. Kids do this. They put a blob in the center. Junior high kids do this. We don't want them to do that. You need to put glue around the edges like this. So go all the way around the edges like this. The glue sticks are purple. When that purple disappears, it's dry and it's not going to stick. So keep that in mind. If you feel like something looks weird, just remember it's Picasso. It doesn't have to make sense. In fact, surrealism is not supposed to make sense. The next thing that's going to happen is you're going to take your black piece of paper and you're going to cut it into hair. So I'm just going to cut a bunch of triangles out of mine. enough. You can do anything you want with your hair. So I just cut out my hair. You guys can do whatever you want to with your hair. It's Picasso. It's supposed to be weird. You want your hair 3D? You can do whatever you want to. I don't care. When you get done cutting out your hair, put glue all around the edges of the hair. That's so cute. So when you get done cutting out your hair and you're ready to glue it on, make sure you get glue all the way around. Now if you get glue on the front, it's okay, it dries clear. Looks shiny, but it'll dry clear. You guys are very creative. If I go too fast, just tell me. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to put on the nostrils. The nostrils are the two little tiny hole punch pieces. And they're going to go in the triangle like this. If anybody needs another piece of black, I have more. If you chopped it up a little too much, it's okay. Try to keep it on the white paper. You don't want it to stick out past the white paper, because the whole goal is to have this little sample that fits inside your binder.
Like graphic novel. You know what I'm talking
Or like on Batman.
You guys are very creative. Love it.
That's like a girl over here. I like it. It's so cute. Oh, I love that.
The next thing I want you to do is take your red piece of paper and fold it in half. Take your little red square and fold it in half. You're going to cut out a heart. So on the folded side, you're just going to cut around, you know, a heart. So you're going to cut a heart out of the red paper. If I go fast, it's because this class is going a lot faster than I thought it would.
Here. On the folded side.
Yeah, on the phone. Start at the bottom.
It's gonna be a bigger heart.
So the heart is going to be turned sideways, and it's your lips. The heart is going to be turned sideways, and it's your lips.
This one?
Yeah, cut it off.
You may not want to make it too big. You might want to make it kind of skinny. Yeah.
My lips hurt.
It can go either direction. Whatever you prefer.
Ah, thanks.
Remember, when you put glue on, you want to go around the edges and not just a blob in the
Where does
center.
it go?
You have to remind the kids the whole period long not to do that. good. Oh my gosh, I should be art teacher.
We just like doing the activities. We don't want to teach it.
Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the blue piece of paper. It's just a little blue rectangle. And we're going to cut it into an oval. So we're just going to round out the edges. So if you take a rectangle and cut off the corners, then you'll make an oval. Now, if you were teaching little tiny kids, you'd want to have all these little ovals cut out for them. How many of you want to teach lower elementary? Whatever. How many of you then really don't care? You just hope when you get out of here you get a good job. Good. Yeah. So you're going to glue your eyeball on. Either side, doesn't matter. You're going to take the orange one and cut it into a circle. This happens to be a really big square. If you don't want it this big, you don't have to. It's the other eye. So it's up to you. If you want it to be smaller or if you want it to be nice and big, it's okay. Taking your orange square, cut around the edges so that it's a circle, and glue it on as your other eye. And if your eyes overlap your hair, it's okay. It's okay if things overlap each other. This kind of looks like a good Halloween project. Take your green paper, your green rectangle, and you're going to glue it on as an ear. So this one is an ear. So put it on the yellow side because the long yellow piece of paper is also an ear. So you can put this on the green side. So you're just attaching a couple of ears, and they can be rectangle. Next, the light pink one, you're going to cut it into a circle. And it is a cheek. It's a little rosy cheek. You can put it on either side. So the light pink is a rosy cheek. The darker pink is your other cheek, but you don't have to cut it. You can glue it on as a little square or a diamond shape. Next you have a purple piece. You can either keep it all together or you can tear it in half so that it's an eyebrow. So you could have an eyebrow like this, that's a triangle, or you could keep it as a straight line, it's an eyebrow. The black one is also an eyebrow. They don't have to be even. They don't have to be perfect. everybody caught up with me? Okay. All right. So the next thing I want you to do with the marker, and if you wanted to stop here, you could. If you're pleased with the way it looks, if you think, if I was teaching this project, I would just stop right here. That's fine, you can. When I did it, I thought I needed to define some things. So don't do anything yet. I just want to show you that Picasso typically made sideways eyes like this on one side. It's up to you. And he also made a normal eye, all in one picture. Cool. So we would have a sideways eye and a normal eye. It's up to you at this point how far you want to go with your project. So he would make a sideways eye and eye facing forward. So it's up to you if you want to continue or if you want to stop there. If you think it looks fresh and clean and you like it, you don't want to add marker, you don't have to. And it's up to you also if you want to define the face and add a neck. You can see I just added a line with the marker and I added a neck. That's up to you. At this point you can stop when you want to, especially with little kids. They want to just keep going and going and going until their project is ruined. So you have to make sure you don't let them go too far.
It's that way. Or do you want it to be sideways like she heard? Or just sideways?
So I'm just going through and outlining some of the features. Don't feel like you have to.
Just like you.
So actually that looks really fresh and clean. I could see if you wouldn't want to, but if you want to do some outlining, feel free. So the outlining is optional. All right, you guys survived your first class. So you're going to take this with you and your notes that you took on Picasso, and write a little lesson that would pertain to the age group that you would like, either lower elementary or upper elementary. And next week, you're going to turn in your lesson plan. I say next week. On Thursday, I'd like you to bring your lesson plan. So on Thursday, bring a lesson plan. If you're here. If you're not here, just bring it when you come next time. Did I get everybody's cell phone number? Did I get everybody that's here? Okay. So in your binder, you're going to slide this into one plastic sheet, and your lesson plan would be attached behind it. So if you decided you wanted to teach the Picasso lesson, you would just pull out this, open up your binder, pull out this page. It would have your example and your lesson plan inside your binder behind it. So it's all on in one sheet. Does that make sense? Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay, next week we're going to talk about, I have to take your picture. Next week we're going to talk about Matisse, and we're going to start preparing for a Picasso lesson. So since we actually have a couple minutes, I'm going to take everybody's picture. Not Picasso, Warhol. time, I need everybody to come right here because we need some drastic lighting across your face. And if you want to make a goofy face, you can. If you just want to look,
Jackie, you better.
Hey everybody. Oh my god, it's gonna be my day. Candid camera. I'm glad that they just came up and
Did you bring almond butter to class?
Higgly. We just had dinner. We were right in the center of it. But it was like, no, we're not realizing.
No.
Oh my gosh, that made my day, guys.
Me? Why? Because you're on camera.
I was like, what? Early? I think so. Oh, every minute.
Look, Hannah, we're on camera. Smile. No, this way. Are you actually gonna do that? Yeah. Okay. Should I do my double chins?
Yes. Maybe yes.
I don't want to I feel like maybe
What?
I feel really uncomfortable being
I cannot.
Is this gonna be like displayed somewhere?
I hope so.
What do you do, Jackie?
It's the middle. It's the elementary school.